Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Saba and on Instagram you can find me as thefacefairy, and today this is my first YouTube video, so I'm really excited to show you guys my process and we're going to be recreating a Kylie Jenner look. I'm going to jump right into skin prep. Her skin is already cleaned and toned, so I'm going to moisturize with Skin Food. This moisturiser is quite heavy, so I wouldn't recommend it if you have really oily skin, as this can make your skin quite oily. But because we're doing a matte glam today, I'm going to be using lots of powder, which I don't usually do. I'm going to be making sure her skin is nice and oily, tacky, and really well hydrated. This is going to ensure that the base products that we go in with, the foundation and the powders and the bronzers, is going to sit really well on the skin rather than just sit on top. So we're trying to fuse all the products together and just create a really nice airbrush look. I find that the key to making sure under eyes don't crease or fine lines aren't enhanced is to make sure the under eye is really well hydrated. So I'm going in with the Bobbi Brown eye cream. You can use any eye cream of your choice, but the more moisturising the better. So you want to use something that's a bit thicker rather than water-based or gel-like. I'm then going in with the Illuminating Primer by Mercier. This was actually my first time using it and I loved it. It's not too heavy like other illuminators, it's really subtle and it's really perfect for you if you'd like to wear it alone, or you can mix it in with your foundation. It's also important to make sure everything that we've just layered with skin and prepping, it's sunk in for at least 5 minutes before you go in with any base products. I'm then starting my skin correction with a Fenty Beauty concealer. I believe it's in the shade 345, but I will be sure to list it down below. I'm then just using a Morphe small buffing brush to sink that in. And I like this concealer because it's quite sheer, but it's not completely translucent, so it's good for colour correction as it's not going to build anything too heavy before your concealer or your foundation. So you just want to make sure that's all blended out really nicely, it's not too patchy, and just make sure that it's blended out into the edges of where you've applied it as well. And for foundation, I'm going in with NARS All Day Luminous in the shade Barcelona, which I think was a perfect match. You want to make sure that you don't go too heavy with the foundation because you are going to be concealing, and I prefer to have a fuller coverage and heavier concealer than a foundation base because I believe that foundation should be used to even out the skin rather than cover up. So try and keep this in mind next time you're applying foundation. I'm then just going to buff this in with a Real Techniques brush. I believe they don't do this brush anymore, but an alternative is the 200 Expert Base Brush, again by Real Technique. I use them both, but for this look I just opted for this one. I like to keep my hands quite light when I'm blending my foundation out, as I don't want the foundation to skip on the skin and I kind of just want to fuse it with the skin prep that we've done. So try and buff it in and try use light motions rather than dragging it across the face. So I like to pat it in and just do feather kind of strokes to make sure it's all evenly blended out. Making sure I'm blending near the jawline and up into the hairline to make sure it's not looking like two different colours. But yeah, just take your time with this. I like to blend for at least 5 minutes. I tell all my students as well, if you're not blending for at least 3 to 5 minutes, your foundation is not blended. Moving on to concealer, I'm going in with NARS Creamy Concealer in the shade Macademia. Because this concealer is quite light to medium coverage, I am going to be layering a fuller coverage concealer on top, but I'm just going to use this to kind of cover up any discoloration, and then for brightening and for further pigmentation correction, I'm going to go in with a second concealer. I am just applying a little bit of concealer around her nose and on the sides of her mouth. This creates a really nice lifting effect, and also on her chin and down the bridge of her nose. I'm then moving on to my brightening layer of concealing, so I am going in with the Huda Beauty concealer in the shade Nougat. I like to use this just on the inner corner or where my model would need more coverage, because this concealer is quite heavy, so you do want to use it quite sparingly and only in the areas where you need the coverage. But it's amazing for brightening and it's amazing for creating just a smooth under eye. It's just so beautiful. Nougat is a really good shade for my brown girls. It's beautiful, it's got a yellow undertone, but it's not orange, and it's also brightening at the same time, so I would definitely recommend this concealer. I'm then going in with my buffing brush by Illamasqua. This is in the style IL20. And because we're using a brush, we want to keep our hands quite light and really take your time with blending this out, because you don't want to drag away any of the concealer. So if you keep a light hand and use the patting motions as I am, it will give you a really flawless finish. I'm then just going to warm up her face with the Toofaced concealer in the shade Maple. I'm applying this near her hairline and right above her cheekbones, just so it can act more of a bronzer rather than contour and really warm up her face. I am then going in with a darker concealer, and this I'm using even more sparingly just to create a shadow underneath where we've warmed up. Using the two just makes sure that the neutral and the warm tones counteract each other and that you don't end up looking muddy or patchy. So our forehead tends to be darker than the rest of our face naturally, so when we apply foundation it can end up looking a bit ashy, so you want to make sure that you really bronze up that forehead, and just using my Mercier cheek brush to blend this out. And then I'm blending out the cheek contour, and you want to make sure you're not dragging this down towards the bottom of the face, as this is going to change up your whole foundation colour. So try and work upwards and make sure to keep your foundation brush on hand to blend out any sharp edges or anywhere where you think the bronzer might have gotten a bit much. Having the foundation brush there makes sure that everything still looks seamless and as one colour. I'm then just roughly going to blend out the nose contour with my MAC 224 brush. You don't need to worry about being too precise with the nose contour, as when you do bake you can kind of define it more if you need to. So you just want to blend this out up into the brow bone and almost up into the crease of the eyes. So next in the cream phase of the makeup is cream blush. I love having multi-uses for my products, so I am going in with my Charlotte Tilbury lipstick in the shade Pillowtalk. So Kylie Jenner's makeup artist is known to have a really strong blush on Kylie a lot of the time. So we are trying to replicate that today, and I am going heavier than usual with my blush, and I am layering a second blush on top of that. I keep saying blush, but I am actually using a liquid lipstick as well. This is the Huda Beauty liquid lipstick in the shade Bombshell that I've layered on top of the Charlotte Tilbury lipstick. I'm using the Real Techniques Expert Face Brush in the style 200, and again just patting that into place, and because we've got such a creamy base already set down, the blush just blends out so flawlessly and with minimal work required. And then if the blush has gone a little bit patchy where your concealer meets, then just re-blend it out. It's not a problem because everything's still in the cream phase. It's really easy to fix any mistakes. So I'm just going back in with a face brush and just blending out the concealer once more. After you've blended out the fine lines under the eyes, you want to go straight in with some powder. This is to make sure the lines don't produce again, so it's really important to work fast in this stage. I'm using one of my favourite powders by Charlotte Tilbury. It's the Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder in the shade Fair. So I like to use a pressed powder before I go in with any bake to kind of seal in coverage and colour, because sometimes I feel like baking can disrupt the colour and the consistency of the under eyes. So this just makes sure that you've set everything into place, it's not going to budge, and the concealer and the coverage is going to remain how it was when you applied it wet. I'm then baking with the Laura Mercier powder in the shade Translucent. I'm just using the corner of the beauty blender and just focusing this on the sides of the nose and right in the inner corner of the eyes to really brighten up that inner corner and snatch the side of the nose. A really cool trick that I learnt was if you pinch your blender and kind of make it into a smaller blender, it makes sure that your powder doesn't go everywhere, because sometimes when you bake you can go a bit too heavy. So this makes sure that you have control over how much you're using and control over where you're applying the powder. As we know, Kylie's glam is quite defined, it's HD, so we are going to take that powder on the sides of the mouth and on the chin. And this also makes the blush pop out, which I found really interesting because I never knew that, but I guess the contrast of the powder and the contrast of the pink just works out really well. So just take some of the powder under your contour and apply it to the oily areas of the face, including the upper lip, on the forehead and just down the bridge of your nose. I'm then just using the same concealer on her lids. This is just to cancel out any pigmentation or any discoloration. And just blend that out roughly. You don't need to sharpen anything up with the concealer. You're literally just trying to create a clean canvas for you to put down your shadows. I'm then just beginning to warm up the crease using that same Maple concealer by Toofaced into the crease. I like using cream bronzer first as this looks more natural, and I just find that cream bronzers or cream concealers are easier to blend out on the lid than just going straight in with the powder. Then I'm deepening the crease, going in with my eyeshadow stack by Melt Cosmetics, and I'm using the shade Rust. You can use any transition colour of your choice, it doesn't have to be exactly what I'm using. As long as it's around the same kind of tone and it's quite rusty, then it will work just as fine. I'm using the Zoeva brush in the style Luxe Crease. This is similar to the MAC 224 if you can't get your hands on that, and it's just perfect for picking up eyeshadow. It makes sure there's no fallout and just blends really beautifully on the skin. And we're just going to deepen that crease even more. I'm going in with a dark brown shade from my Dose of Colours palette. I will list it below. It's one of my favourite palettes, and this brown is just beautiful. And to blend this out, I'm using the Luxe Definer brush by Zoeva and just making sure to place this below where we've applied our transition colour. For the base of that dark chocolate brown, I'm going in with Laura Mercier's Caviar Eye Stick in the shade Cocoa. If you're new to makeup, or if you just don't have enough time to be getting ready, then I really recommend these shadow sticks. They're really easy to work with, super easy to blend, and I'm not too sure why I haven't used them before, but I will be purchasing more shades as I fell in love with it. So as you can see, I didn't apply that too neatly, but not to worry because it's going to blend out so easily, as you can see now, and you just want to blend out the edges. It's really easy to blend, so you don't have to do much work right now. And you can also just leave this here, but I did decide to set it down with a dark brown powder shadow. I'm just going in with the darkest brown in that Dose of Colours palette and the same Zoeva Luxe Definer brush to set that down. Not much blending is necessary over here. You just kind of want to pack it onto where you apply the cream colour and just blend out the edges slightly. I'm then just going to go into the waterline with a black kohl pencil, and you want to kind of just apply this everywhere from the inner corner right all the way to the outer corner. And then we're just prepping her lashes by applying mascara and curling her lashes before we go in with the fake lash. This makes such a huge difference. And if you struggle applying lashes or they just don't stay stuck on, then I really recommend trying to curl your lashes before you apply them. I'm then just sweeping off the excess powder, and by now you can see a lot of the powder has already sunk into the face, so there's not much excess left, but you want to just make sure you're almost pressing that in at the same time as taking it off. And once you're happy with that, you can go ahead and apply your false lashes, and just making sure you wait for the glue to get nice and tacky for a minute or two. I'm then going in with the Barnes Cheek Chic palette and just applying that on the apples of her cheek, kind of going a little bit closer to her under eye than I usually would. As we know, Kylie Jenner's makeup is quite pink under the eyes as well, so you want to just take that up higher than you usually would. To smoke out the lower lash line, I'm going in with the same shadow stick by Mercier and just blending that out with the pencil brush by Zoeva. And just further diffusing that with the brown from the Dose of Colours palette and making sure it looks smoky and sultry rather than patchy. So we're just going to sharpen the edge of that eyeshadow and really lift up the corners of the eyes by using the blender and the same baking powder and just creating a sharp line underneath the shadow. And we're just going to let that sit until we're done with the rest of the face. I'm using the Benefit Precisely brow pencil in the shade dark brown and just filling in any sparse areas. I quite liked the natural shape of Nicole's eyebrows, so I didn't do much to the shape, but just redefined and filled in any sparse areas. I'm setting the eyebrows using Anastasia Beverly Hills Clear Brow Gel. I love this brow gel. It kind of gives the brows a soap effect without using soap brows. And it's good for you if soap brows don't really work for you, but you still kind of want that laminated look. And then when it comes to lips, I like to define the upper lip before I go in with any colour. And for this, I like to use a dark brown no matter what lip colour I'm using. And this is by Kiko in the shade 321. It's a nice neutral dark brown and it gives that perfect shadow for a contoured lip. And then kind of blending that out with my next lip liner, which is Soul by MAC. I'm going to fill in the lips with this lip liner as well, as we're going for a matte lip today, so it's always best to coat your lips in lip liner before you go in with the liquid lipstick, as it will ensure that the lipstick stays all day and it looks smoother when you photograph as well. I'm then filling the lips with Huda Beauty's liquid lipstick in the shade Bombshell. This is one of my favourite liquid lipsticks as it looks beautiful matte and it looks beautiful with gloss on, and it's such a unique corally kind of peachy colour which suits so many skin tones. I've used it on hundreds of faces and it never disappoints me. And then just cleaning up any errors with a concealer and a concealer brush. Don't be alarmed, this doesn't disrupt the makeup as long as you blend it out really well. And just make sure to use it sparingly and make sure the colour isn't too light in comparison to the rest of her face. So wipe off any of that excess powder and take that powder that's left on your brush all over the face, kind of to buff everything in and seal it all into place, and then you're basically finished. And that is the finished look, guys. This was so much fun creating it and showing you guys the whole process. I don't do this very often, so this was a big kind of deal for me, so I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Comment below what else you would like to see, and thank you so much for watching.